Hello BookTube, my name is Sarah and welcome to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with my weekly reads for June the 23rd of 2018. In my weekly reads videos every week, I talk about all the books that I finished that week and I let you know what I'm currently reading. So this week I finished 7 books. You can always tell when you're getting a little bit closer to the end of the month because the book counts tend to get higher. I always look at my TBR and go, oh, I still have a lot of books to finish. I need to up my my reading time a little bit more. So yeah, next week's is probably going to be just as long. So, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not forcing anything. I am not stressing myself out. You know, if I don't finish something, I don't finish something. But I make the TBRs and I really do like to be able to get everything done on them that I set for myself as a goal. So, and my TBRs do tend to be, you know, quite large, but that's okay. I luckily get a lot of reading time, and I mean, at least, sometimes more than half of everything that I read is on audiobook, which makes it really, really easy to finish stuff. So that's great. So 7 books. Let's jump in and get started so this doesn't end up being horribly long. So the very first book that I finished this week was The Hidden Staircase by Carolyn Keene. This is a mystery book, of course, and it is book number 2 in the Nancy Drew mystery series. This was published in 1930, and it has an average rating of 3.95 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars, but I got no challenges for this one, but that's okay. I do not, for my childhood books or my back to my childhood books or whatever you want to call them, I don't necessarily set challenges for them unless they just happen to fit something. But anyway, this is, of course, another mystery story, and it's about Nancy and her friend Helen, and Nancy is hired by Helen's elderly aunts to come and investigate a ghost in the old home that they live in. And, of course, it involves a hidden staircase and all kinds of things. It was really, really cute. I really liked it. I mean, 3.5 stars. I am thoroughly enjoying rereading through these books. I think originally I read at least the first 4, and then I think I read some sporadic, like, different ones in the series. More of probably the recent ones that came towards the end of this one. Like, I think there was 175 books in this series in total, and I may have read some of the books in the 100s, like, in those ones. But the first original, like, the original old yellow cover ones that I have a picture of right here, those I think I only read maybe a half a dozen of them. So these first 3 I know for sure. Book 1, book 2, and then book 3 that I'm currently reading. I know I've read them before, but beyond that, I don't know. So those ones might be new, so that'll be kind of fun. The next book that I finished was Secret Contract by Dana Martin. This is a romantic suspense novel. It is book number 1 in the Mission Redemption series, and it is a Harlequin intrigue novel number 985. This was published in 2007 by Harlequin, and it has an average rating on Goodreads of 3.51 stars. I gave it 3.5 stars as well. So for this one, I got a brand new challenge done. So the Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs challenge that I've been doing, the quarterly challenge through the Romance Readers Reading Group on Goodreads, ended as of the 15th of June. So a new one started as of the 16th of June, which will run until the 15th of September. So a quarterly challenge, essentially. And this one is called The Wonderful World of Romance. And essentially what it is you have 35 different categories. And this is actually a lot of fun. Like, a part of me is like, why did this come out after I did the summer book bingo? Because these categories would have been great for a bingo challenge. They're all very simple, like essentially, you know, read a contemporary, read a historical, read a friends to lovers, read a, you know, one involving a policeman, one involving a cowboy, you know, like it's kind of like that. It's like a 1-word prompt, and then you need to find a book that kind of fits into that category. And so there's 35, and you can pick which level you want to do. You don't have to do all 35. You know, there's different, I think there's 4 or 5 different levels that they give you. You know, if you read 5 books, if you can read 10 books or 25 books or whatever. I'm, of course, going for the gold, and I am reading all 35 is my goal for from now until the end, mid-September. And plus there's also 5 bonus questions that you can do. And I'm doing the bonuses as well if I can. And the bonuses are a little bit more like read a standalone, read part of a series, read a romance from one of your favorite romance genres, read one from a genre you want to try, stuff like that. So I will leave a link to that in the description box below if you're interested in going to check it out. It's never too late to join up if you want to. So, like I said, I got one of those, and I got the suspense mystery category complete for this one, so that was great. So this was the story of Carly and Nick, and this premise of this, it's a 4-book miniseries, and it's really, really interesting, and I really cannot wait to read the rest of them. So essentially what it's about these 4 women who were in prison for different reasons. Carly, our main protagonist in this story, she was in prison for computer hacking, which back in 2007 was a very big deal. I mean, it's still a very big deal. She essentially was able to break into the CIA website. And of course she was arrested, and I guess she was made made an example of, because she got like a 10-year sentence. So she spent, I think, 3 or 4 years in jail. And then these 4 women were kind of brought in at the very beginning of the book, and they're told, we need you guys for a secret mission, and we're essentially going to let you out of jail early, but you have to pose as people working, you know, in this business that might launder money, because they're trying to catch some, like, bad Russian guy. And yeah, it was really, really interesting. You know, I really like Carly, I really like Nick. Nick was one of the guys training them, and of course there's a romance that develops, but that romance takes quite a bit of time to develop. You really do get to focus on, you know, Carly getting out of prison and going through this training at Quantico, and, you know, not just with, like, weapons training and stuff like that, but also, like, physical training and things like that. You know, it's very, very much a cloak and dagger kind of book. It was a lot of fun. They did not, you know, spoiler alert, they did not catch the bad guy at the end. It goes through all 4 books, so that's a great overarch going through these. But, you know, this one is available on ebook, so I highly recommend that you go ahead and check it out. I did look, I read it as a print book, but I did check and see, and it is available as an ebook in case you're interested. The next book that I finished, I loved this one so much, you guys. Something About You by Julie James. This is another romantic suspense novel, and it is book number 1 in the FBI U.S. Attorney series. It was narrated on audio by Karen White. It was published in 2010 by Berkeley Sensation. It has an average rating of 3.94 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 4.5 stars. I loved it. I got 3 challenges done out of this one. One of them, the June 2018 monthly challenge. J is for June. So essentially you had to read a book that either the title started with the letter J or the author's name started with the letter J, and of course Julie James. For my summer romance book bingo, yay, book bingo, I got a book with more than 10,000 ratings on Goodreads. I think I've said reviews before, it's ratings. So I know, you know, not everybody reviews a book, but everybody typically rates a book, so it needs to have more than 10,000 ratings. And this one, I think, had 51,000 or something like that, so it more than surpassed the mark. And then again, for that Wonderful World of Romance Quarterly Challenge, I got Legal Law Profession, because Cameron, our main protagonist in this book, is a U.S. attorney. And Jack is an FBI agent. So essentially this book starts out, and if you have not read this book and you want to, listen to it on audio. Just for the opening scene, Karen White does a brilliant job narrating it. Essentially, Cameron is staying overnight in this hotel, and the story takes place in Chicago. She lives in Chicago, but she's staying overnight at a hotel because she's getting her floors redone. And the couple in the room beside her is having a very fun adult time, and it's hysterical because she gets woken up by these noises banging against the wall, and it's brilliantly narrated. But then it turns into something much more sinister because she hears one of the people leave, and then she hears somebody come back, but then the woman ends up getting murdered. So she's essentially, in a way, an eyewitness because she looked out the door after she heard something, and she saw somebody leaving, but she didn't see their face, like she didn't know who it was. She only saw them from the back. But because she's a U.S. attorney, she's kind of trained to notice details. So she kind of noticed how big the guy was, how tall the guy was, exactly what he's wearing. Stuff that you or I might not pay as close attention to, she noticed. So now she's being protected by the FBI because she's an eyewitness. They didn't know that there was an eyewitness, these bad people. And it was really, really good. It was very steamy. There were parts of it that were very, very steamy. Cameron and Jack have a history from a number of years ago when they were working another case together and stuff like that. But it was so, 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 so good. The banter back and forth between the characters is brilliant. Again, if you can listen to this on audio, check it out. It's part of the Audible Romance package. I absolutely recommend it, and I cannot wait to continue on with this series. The next book that I finished was Sweet Home Cowboy by Marin Thomas. This is a contemporary romance novel, and it is book number 9 in the Love at the Chocolate Shop series. It was published in 2017 by Tool Publishing and has an average rating of 4.43 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars. This was not my favorite book in the series. So for this one, I got another Triple RC challenge done, and that was number 10, Reader's Choice, which is just read any book of your choosing. I also got another one for my summer romance book bingo, romance featuring a cowboy. Wes, our main male lead in this book, is a cowboy. And for my Stacking the Series challenge, I got my 23rd out of 45th book done for that. And another one for the Wonderful World of Romance quarterly challenge. I got one that is considered to be a clean romance, and this one is, they define clean as no explicit sex, and there is no adult content in that vein at all in this book, in any of these books. So if it's something that you want to check out and that's something that you're a little bit weary of, is books that are a little too steamy, these ones are perfectly safe. So this is the story of Elena and Wes. And Elena has decided to come to Marietta, Montana, from her hometown in Las Vegas. Her mother actually grew up in town, fell in love with a local boy in college, or in high school actually. They graduated high school. The mom left town because she was raised by a foster family. She had a whole backstory. And her and the father, you know, they get pregnant with Elena, and then he passes away. He dies in a tragic accident. So all this time growing up, you know, Elena didn't know about this background, like her mom's history, essentially. And then she comes across these stack of letters that her great-great-grandfather had written to her father, so his grandson, essentially. And she's really mad at her mom because she didn't know. So the book opens up with her traveling to Marietta. She's a school teacher, so she's off for the summer. The fun thing about this series is I've read them in order that they came out by month. So I've been reading one every month since last October, because the very first book takes place in October, and each book takes place in a different month. So this one takes place in June. She's a grade 1 teacher, and she's off on summer vacation, so she decides to come to town to meet this great-grandfather that she never even knew existed. So my issue with this story was that I did not like Elena. I really did not. She shows up at his front door. He doesn't know her from Adam, and, you know, proceeds to be like, I'm going to be a part of your life now, and is very, very pushy to this old man. And, you know, yes, you kind of read about him throughout the series, and you've met him before, and he's very old, he's crotchety, he's like the kind of like, get off my lawn kind of old man, right? And, you know, I mean, but he's had a lot of heartbreak in his life, and you can fully understand why, you know? And, but she just like, and then she gets upset at first because he doesn't invite her to stay with him. He doesn't know who you are. You could be a mass murderer. You know, like, it really bothered me how pushy she was and the things that she was doing and stuff like that. And I think, actually, that I found that she was sometimes kind of really mean to Wes. She kept kind of, like, giving him signals and then backing off, being like, oh, I think we should just be friends because, you know, I'm not planning on staying in town. And then she'd go ahead and kiss him or something, and it was just like, really? You know, them thinking, oh, maybe I'll just have a little summer romance, you know, stuff like that. I don't know. It just, I did not like her, and I think that's what lowered the star rating down for me quite a bit. But I still do love this series. And, I mean, I enjoyed this book. It was a 3-star read, which is an average read for me. You know, you're going to get a few duds in a series. That's typically what happens. Not every single book is going to be fantastic. But if you like a good, quick, clean romance story, you know, I recommend you check these out. And you know what? If you can, read them in order. Just because, you know, it's kind of fun. And especially it's fun reading them in order because they each take place during a different month. And you kind of get to, like, fall into that month a little bit more because you're personally experiencing the weather or the holiday, you know, like, for example, the first one's at Halloween, you know, stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and I absolutely recommend these books. The next one that I finished was The Lucky Ones by Tiffany Reisz, or Reisz. I think it's actually Reisz, or Reisz. When I listened to the audiobook, I really tried to listen to how her last name was pronounced, so I do apologize if I got it incorrect. This was a mystery thriller romance, and it was narrated on audio by Emily Wu Zeller, who did a brilliant job narrating it. It was published in 2018 by Myra Books, so it is a brand new release. I think it came out in the spring. Has an average rating of 3.99 stars on Goodreads, and I gave it 4 stars. I did not list any challenges for this one, but I read this one with the Deadly Divas Book Club, which is hosted by Lisa over at Books and Smiles, and I can't remember who else. I know Jen from Jen, she changed. It's no longer Today in Jen's Library. Jen Talks Audiobooks, I think is her channel name. And this story is about a woman named Allison, and I have read Tiffany, or I've read this author before, as I've mentioned, and I've raved about them. Her 3 books that she did for the Blaze series, or the Blaze line, the Men at Work series, her Halloween treat, and then there was a Thanksgiving one, and then a Christmas one. I absolutely recommend them. They are very spicy, but they are so much fun, and the characters are great. She also wrote another series that I have not read, the original Sinners, which was published a number of years ago by Harlequin. And then I read last year The Bourbon Thief by her, which I really, really enjoyed as well. So I really like her books. Now, unlike the Blaze books, what surprised me is after reading the Blaze books, I kind of thought, okay, I know what kind of a writer she is. And then when I read The Bourbon Thief, I was like, oh, well, this is quite a bit different. And then this one, same thing. This is not your typical kind of contemporary romancy. I mean, like I said, it's a mystery thriller. You know, they'd read it for the Deadly Divas Book Club, which is what they read, are mystery thrillers. So anyway, like I said, this is a story about Allison. And Allison kind of grew up in foster care before she ended up moving in with her aunt. Now, she lived in this house with this man and his other foster children. He had 2 boys and a girl that he adopted. She was living there with them along with another little boy. And at one point, I think when she was about 12, she was pushed down the stairs and has no memory of the time after that and what happened. And then at the very beginning of this book, she gets a letter from one of her brothers, or her foster brothers, if you will. There's a reason I'm putting them in quotation marks. I'll get to it in a second. And she is told now that their father, or the man who raised them, now she didn't live with them for very long. She was there from the time she was 7 till she was 12, so it wasn't a long time. And he never adopted her. She was just a foster child. He adopted the 2 boys and the other girl, and had before she arrived, I guess. But anyway, that he was dying and she needed to come back to say, kind of, you know, she wanted to say her goodbyes. So she comes back. Well, this also kind of is what happened, sort of kind of in The Bourbon Thief, that there is a relationship between her and her foster brother. You know, take it as you will, whether it is. Now, in The Bourbon Thief, I believe they had more of a connection, more of a family connection. I can't remember. This one, there was no blood relation. But for the time from she was 7 till she was 12, now he was a few years older than her. I think when she left, when she was 12, he was 16. So there was a 4-year age difference between the 2 of them. And, you know, she kind of always loved him and idolized him, and during thunderstorms she'd crawl into bed with him and things like that. They were just kids. But now she actually develops a relationship with him during the course of this book. That is a physical relationship, and it does get hot and spicy. I will let you guys know that. But then there's this mystery aspect about who pushed her down the stairs and why. And, you know, all these kids that have been living with this man. Now, he's a neurosurgeon. He's not just some random dude. He is a neurosurgeon. He operated on all of these children because they had supposed brain tumors. So I don't want to give too much away. It was really good. I will be honest. I really enjoyed it. Now, I know last night in the live show, a lot of them were saying it's available on Hoopla for free to listen to the audio. I don't have Hoopla in that aspect up here in Canada. So I actually had to get it from Audible, and I paid for it. I bought it, which is fine, and I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed it. I mean, what did I say? 4.5 stars or 4 stars? That's really good. You know, I had a few issues with it. Again, there is some very gray areas in this book, you know, with the relationship between Allison and her brother, her foster brother, Roland. There's also something that's going on with Roland that I had a bit of a harder time with. I had more of a hard time with this other thing, and I don't want to say what it is because I want you guys to kind of read it yourselves if you want to. But if you've read the book, please feel free to discuss with me below. You probably know what I'm talking about. I had a harder time with that aspect of his character than with him sleeping with this girl that, you know, was kind of raised as his sister. Yeah. I'm sorry to keep using air quotes, but you guys know what I mean. But yeah, an enjoyable book. Again, brilliant on audio. There is a scene in the book where the 4 kids, so Allison, the 2 boys, and the other girl, they're all adults now. I mean, they're all in their mid to late 20s, and I think some of the guys, I think 2 of the guys are, the guys are 30 almost, and they're all in the attic, and they're smoking pot. And it's hysterical. And Jen actually said it perfectly. She said, you know, those of us who listen to it on audio seem to have found that scene a lot funnier than people who read it in a print book because of the way it was narrated. And that really does make a difference. So I absolutely recommend that you check this book out. The next book that I finished was Gilded Secrets by Maureen. This is a contemporary romance novel. It is book number 1 in the Highest Bidder series. It is a Harlequin desire. I have Harlequin intrigue written down here. I don't know why. I've read a lot of intrigue and desire novels over the last month or so. It's a Harlequin desire novel, number 2168. It was published in 2012 by Harlequin, of course. Has an average rating on Goodreads of 3.46 stars. I only gave this one 3 stars. I didn't absolutely love this one either. I got 1 challenge completed out of this one. My What to Read in 2018, where you're given 42 different prompts, and you need to pick a book for each prompt, but you have over a year to complete this. So this one was, like I said, for task 13, excuse me, which is sort your TBR to show 50 books per page and sort by number of pages, shortest to longest. Pick a book on the first page. So this was a shorter book. It was only 180 pages or something like that. So this is the story of Charlotte, also known as Charlie, and Vance. And he works for a very, very large and very well-known auction house in New York City. And she is his secretary. And someone is trying to blackmail the company, and he decides to seduce her to get her to tell him what she might know. The truth is, she doesn't know anything. She's actually being blackmailed by somebody else personally for something to do with the company, but they're threatening her young son, her 2-year-old son. And of course a relationship develops between Charlie and Vance, and the story kind of goes from there. My big issue with this book, it's very alpha male, and I am not a big fan of the whole alpha male trope. You know, towards the end when they kind of, you know, as with a typical romance, they have a falling out before they come back together again. And, you know, he forcibly kind of grabs her by the arm and is like, you're going to listen to me. And I'm thinking, oh, no, you did not. Don't manhandle the girl. I mean, some people, that's their thing, and they like that, and that's absolutely cool. I mean, he didn't hurt her, don't get me wrong, but that very forcible, you will listen to me, I don't go for that. That's not my typical thing. This wasn't a very long book, so I didn't have any problem, like, finishing it, but I find sometimes with these desire novels, they tend to be a lot more alpha male heavy, even though I do enjoy them. That's one of the reasons I don't read a lot of the Harlequin Presents novels, because they are very alpha male. And I've just found with all the ones that I've read, I just don't care for them. You know, that very, you know, I don't want the guy to be a pushover, don't get me wrong, but, you know, be nice. You know, you don't have to be a jerk, and I just found that he was very jerky to her. Jerky, is that the word I'm looking for? He was very much a jerk to her, and I just didn't love it very much. So, you know, but it's the first in a series. I like the story. I like the overarching plot that's going to be going through these. I think there's 6 books in this little mini-series, so I'll definitely be continuing on with them. I do own a couple of the ones that follow after this. And the very last book that I finished this month, hold on, let me double check. Yes, the last book that I finished this month was Wound Up in Murder by Betty Hechtman. This is a cozy mystery book. I love this cover. I just adore this cover. I kind of want it as a painting on my wall. Without the title and stuff, I just want the image. I want all the covers in this book. I wonder if I could find a way to get them and like put them up on a wall somewhere. I think that'd be cute. This is book number 3 in the Yarn Retreat Mystery Series, and it was narrated on audio by Margaret Storm. This was published in 2015 by Berkeley, and I gave it, it has an average rating of 3.84 stars on Goodreads. I only gave it 3.5 stars. I shouldn't say only. 3.5 stars is a good rating. I enjoyed this one. I thought it was really cute. I don't love these on audio, to be completely honest, but my library has them available, so I thought that I would, you know, use the library to get, because I didn't have a copy of this, and they had it as an ebook and an audiobook, but audiobooks are so much easier for me to listen to, so that's why I grabbed it on audio, and it was available. Actually, I had to wait about 2 weeks for it. So the premise of this one, Casey, this cozy mystery series, Casey has inherited this yarn retreat business from her aunt. This happened back in book number 1. Her aunt was actually killed by a hit and run. So that's never really been investigated, so I don't know if that's something that's going to pop up later in the series. But she runs this yarn retreat business, and it's in this small coastal town in California called Cadbury. And I believe it's a real town. And all of the action kind of takes place at this place called Vista Del Mar, which is this big resort that hosts these retreats. So during the weekend that she is doing a yarn retreat or a knitting retreat, there's another retreat happening called the Favorite Year Club. And I guess they get together a couple times a year and they host these events and they pick a year. And this year happened to be 1963. And they kind of immerse themselves in that year. They, you know, only listen to music from that year. They only dress in clothes from that year. You know, they watch movies from that year, things like that. And then they have these 3 celebrities come in who were famous at the time for whatever. One's an actress, one is like a singer, and then one's a famous professional baseball player from the time. And, you know, so then the mystery unfolds because the owner of this favorite year retreat, his soon-to-be ex-wife, or they're getting a divorce, gets murdered. And Casey's ex-boyfriend, who they are still friends, he's kind of fingered for the murder because he was killed, or she was killed with something that he had on him, like that was in his possession. Don't want to give anything more away than that. It was really cute. These are really simple and fun stories. Again, the narration on the audio is not my favorite, but it's absolutely, you know, acceptable. It's not like super fantastic, but it's not horrible. So yeah, if your library has her, you can get off the hoopla. Definitely check it out. If you like cozy mysteries, this is a really cute one. And again, those covers are just to die for. I absolutely love them. No pun intended. So let's jump on to what I am currently reading. My current audiobook is Rustler's Moon by Jodi Thomas. This is book number 2 in the Ransom Canyon series, and it's being narrated on audio by Julia Gibson. I read Ransom Canyon, which was the first book in the series last year, and this one is following suit with that one, with the whole way that she's telling these stories. Essentially, there are 3 little stories in one. And the first book, you kind of followed 3 separate characters. In this book, you're following 3 separate characters and their stories, but they are all intertwined. And I remember the first book at the end, you kind of got how they were all intertwined. And I know that's probably going to happen in this one as well. So in this one, there's a girl named, is it Allison or Addison? Sorry, I read a book with an Addison earlier, but she's kind of on the run. Her father, they don't know whether he was murdered. He was attacked in a holdup. Like, I don't want to say pickpocketing because that sounds, a mugging. He was mugged, and then he ended up dying from the shock because he had a bad heart. And so she kind of knows some things about the business that he was working in, and he told her before he died, like he left her this note saying, you need to leave, you need to get away, you need to go hide. So she ends up heading to this very small town in Texas called Ransom Canyon, and she becomes the curator for the local little museum. And then her story takes off because now she's got someone stalking her. The other story is about the town sheriff's daughter who's now in college. In the first book, she was in high school, and you followed her story in that one too. But in this one, it's kind of like going forward, and it's her dealing with this roommate who's having a lot of problems. And then the third story is about this older gentleman who's in his 70s, and he, every like spring and summer, camps down by the canyon, and he's kind of hiking through there, and he's looking for this cave that he found when he was a child, and it had drawings on it, and he just wants to find it again, not for any other reason other than to relive his childhood, but he's been doing this every year since he retired. So somehow all 3 of these stories are going to come in together, and I'm really enjoying it. The narration on it is really, really good. The first book I read as an ebook, but this one, as I said, listening to it on audio. The first 3 books in this series are available as part of the Audible Romance package. So if you want to go ahead and check them out, I absolutely recommend it. Excuse me. These are also clean romances, in case you didn't know. Sex is discussed, and by saying that, I mean, like, you know, the lead guy in this book, who's kind of making googly eyes at our little museum curator, talks about potentially, you know, sleeping with her, but not in any graphic detail, and there is no sexual relations so far in this book. A few kisses, and that's about it. But, yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it, and I should actually get this done today. The next book that I'm currently reading, my ebook, is His Lost and Found Family by Sarah M. Anderson. This is book number 5 in the Texas Cattlemen's Club After the Storm series. Not loving this one, guys. I'll get into it when I finish the book, like when I review it next week for you guys. What I have enjoyed is that this is the story of Sky and I can't remember the guy's name. I want to say it's Jack. It starts with a J. And you've kind of been hearing their stories since the first book. So this has kind of been the overarching plot line that's kind of been woven through all of the stories. All the stories in this series are connected together by a tornado that happened in the first book, and then kind of like the aftermath and how the small town in Texas is dealing with it. But, you know, Skye was in a coma and she had to deliver her baby early, and she's now woken up from the coma and her husband has come back, and the story goes from there. So, I mean, it's kind of atypical. There are some things in it that are bothering me. Again, I will talk about that more when I do my review next week. I'm not disliking the book. It's far from my favorite in the series, unfortunately. My current childhood book, as I'm calling them, is The Bungalow Mystery by Carolyn Keene, which is book number 3 in the Nancy Drew series. I literally just started this one a few days ago, but I have not had a chance to read any more of it over the last few days. I do plan on getting some more reading done in it today. I'd like to get at least 6 or 8 chapters read. They are relatively easy. They're 3 or 4 minute long chapters. That should be easy peasy. I'll probably be doing that while I'm letting this upload. But, you know, it starts off just so, you know, Nancy and her friend Helen again are at a cabin by the lake, and they're on the lake and there's a storm and they get thrown from the boat and they almost drown, and then hot chocolate makes everything better because they end up meeting somebody rescues them, and they end up going, this all happens in the first chapter, and they end up going into this like little bungalow to try and warm up, and they make a new friend, and this new friend, they kind of make hot chocolate and they dry their clothes, and life is, they didn't just almost die on the lake. But that's part of the great part about these books. It sounds like I'm making fun, but I'm really, really not. They are so quaint and so charming and so much fun, and I'm really enjoying this one. And last but not least, talking about books that I'm enjoying. Oh my god, you guys. My current print book is The Ballerina Secret by Teri Wilson. This is book number 1 in the Wild Heart series. If you watched my Harlequin Anticipated Reads video last week, I mentioned the fact that I do plan on reading one of those books every month, like going forward. So I'm starting with June. I picked my July book already, but picking one of those books that is on that anticipated reads list every month for Harlequin and reading one of them. This is the one for June. This one just was released this month. This is so good. I am, how far into this am I? Almost 70 pages. I don't want to put this down. It's that good. But I'm forcing myself because I, you know, have to get to bed at night. Probably part of the reason why I hadn't really been reading the Nancy Drew book. But this is the story of Tessa. She's our ballerina, and Julian. He's a concert pianist, or he's a musician of some kind. It hasn't gotten into his backstory yet, so I really don't know. But she is a ballerina ever since she was 4 years old and put on her first pair of ballet shoes. That's all she's ever wanted to do. And unfortunately, after an accident while doing ballet last year, or a year earlier, she lost her hearing after hitting her head. And she's been deaf, essentially, for the last year. And now, all of a sudden, her hearing has started to come back. But in bits and pieces, and like she said, at one scene, she's going to brush her teeth, and she turns on the tap, but it sounds like Niagara Falls. Like, it's very distorted, and, you know, because it's only in one ear, her balance is off, and she's a ballerina, and she's auditioning for a role in a big ballet. And her doctor, when he finds out that her hearing is starting to come back, is like, maybe you need to be at home for like the next month just to kind of get yourself situated with what's going on with your body. And, you know, the story kind of goes from there. And then, of course, it's the relationship between the two of them. They meet right at the beginning of the book. It's really, really sweet. The author knows her stuff when it comes to ballet. I'll tell you that. I used to dance when I was younger. Nowhere in any sort of professional capacity. I love doing ballet. I did ballet, tap, and jazz for years and years and years. And she knows her stuff. And another one of the books that she has actually written, she's probably read a lot of books, but written is called His Ballerina Bride. So she's read or written other books about ballerinas. This is only, I think, her 4th book. She did another series called the Drake Diamond series, which I think also, this takes place in New York and Manhattan. That series also takes place in Manhattan, and that series, like, they talk about how in this big production they're going to do, the costumes are going to be, the main actor, or the main ballerina's costumes are going to have Drake diamonds sewn into them, so there is mention made of that series. But yeah, guys, this is so, so, so good. If you get a chance to pick it up, please do. Of course, I'll let you know my full thoughts when I finish it next week. So that's it for this video, you guys. You know, it was a lot of books. I kind of went on for a bit. I don't have really any knitting near me to show you. I'm just working on the same things I've been working on before. I've added some more squares to my blanket and stuff like that. But 7 books, I think I've talked enough in this video. Very quickly, in case you guys are curious, the video is coming up next week. On Tuesday, I've got my anticipated reads rewind video coming, which is very exciting. There are some great books that I picked last June or last July, so that should be great. And of course, I've got my July TBRs coming up on Thursday. I also mentioned last week that I was going to be doing a my summer romance book bingo, kind of like I'm gonna do each month like a look back on how I did over the past month. I was gonna do that and post it on Friday, but I still have a bunch of books to read this week that are gonna be part of that summer romance book bingo. So I'm actually gonna hold off, and that'll go up next Saturday or next Sunday on July 1st. So it'll be after, you know, it'll be another week from now, essentially. So, but stay tuned for that as well. Anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. And until my next video, guys, take care and happy reading. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, everybody.